This program is brought to you in part by Georgianne Blakely Zamonic's Amazing Space, providing full design services, including the one-day makeover. Georgianne is an interior designer and can be contacted at 979-774-5095 or amazingspace@verizon.net.
Welcome back to another edition of KMU's Down Home. I'm your host, Kyle Netterville, and as you can see, we are still out here at Milliken Produce. Brian Cottrella of Heirloom Gardens is going to talk with Tanya here at Milliken Produce about some common tomato myths. A few weeks ago, we were out at Duck Jam at Wolf Pen Creek Amphitheater, and we had the chance to sit down with Kevin Fowler. Well, I'm here still picking tomatoes out at Milliken Produce. Peter and Tara Madden are the proud new parents of Lola Madden. We welcome her into the world. But since Peter's been a little bit busy lately, we're going to show you something he created for us a while back. He called it baked sweet potatoes a la Madden. Look at these beautiful purple bell peppers here at Milliken Produce. On the last segment of the show today, Dave McIntyre, who is the director for the Integrated Center for Homeland Security at Texas A&M University, spoke with Paul Carlton, who is the director of Homeland Security for the Texas A&M Health Science Center. They talked about the H1N1 virus, commonly known as swine flu, and how it pertains to us right here in the Brazos Valley. Stay tuned. KAMU Down Home is coming up next. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Thanks for watching. We are here at Milliken Produce, and inside the greenhouse behind me is Brian Cottrella of Heirloom Gardens and Tanya from Milliken Produce, and they're going to discuss with us some common tomato myths. Let's hear what they had to say.
Is it true that if you put Christmas balls on a tomato plant that you're going to deter animals or birds from getting on that plant?
Yes, that is true. Christmas balls do deter the birds away. Most of them, you know, there's always going to be that bad bird that gets the tomato. But also ribbons, like aluminum ribbon, you can buy it at a fabric store or maybe at a Hobby Lobby or something. You wrap those on your tomato plants and it flickers and they tend to stay away too.
So the secret is it has to flicker, because if it blows into it and gets tangled up.
And I think it has to do with the shininess too. And a scarecrow, that works too for the most part, but you never know. There's always going to be that bird.
Well, that brings up something really weird that I had just thought of when you said they grow like a weed.
Mm-hmm.
I was out at the compost facility the other day, and the tomato that I saw growing in the wild must have been 20 foot long. Mm-hmm. Is that a regular tomato? And why is it growing in the compost facility?
Well, you're probably getting people compost stuff, and the facility picks it up and takes it to their plant, and they continue to compost. So you're getting a seed that hasn't broke down, and tomatoes will grow anywhere. They'll grow in manure, they'll grow in compost, they'll grow in sludge. They're like a weed. They're going to do good anywhere. You need to realize just because it's growing in a certain type of dirt doesn't mean it's healthy to eat. So you need to watch where your tomatoes growing. If it's just growing out there in the wild, you need to look around the environment. If there's, you don't want any pollution or anything. If you pick that tomato, it's not going to be good. It's going to have bad elements in it.
So you're saying it picks up the minerals and stuff that's around
minerals that it's growing in.
It's going to affect the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, the flavor, especially with the salts and stuff, there's lots of salts in the soil. Flavor and potentially it could be, not very good for you to eat. Maybe a little bit toxic. So just pay attention. It's not best to pick a wild tomato just grown in the wild.
As a historic-bought tomato, where are these coming from? Are they pretty much Texas located, or are they coming from out of state, even California? And
the ones you find in the stores now?
Correct.
Yeah, the ones right now are actually out of state mostly.
Okay.
Florida and California.
Because I've heard in my years of being in this that Texas-grown fruits and vegetables do have a much higher content of sugar.
Absolutely. But I think a lot of that has to do with when it was picked.
And they're not being shipped
because
as far.
they're not. Exactly. They're not shipped as far. You can let this fruit get redder because it's not going to be traveling near as far, so it's just going to develop more flavor on the vine. Okay. So when it gets to the store, it's going to be much closer to the field.
Gotcha. So I'll make this a two-part question. One, why do the tomatoes rot on the bottom? Mm-hmm. The blossom end rot. Mm-hmm. And two, what makes the tomato split on your vine, and how do you stop these problems?
I'll answer the blossom end rot question. That's typically a calcium deficiency, and you're going to see a little brown spot around the bottom of the tomato. That's a great indicator that you have a calcium deficiency. And as a home gardener, you could add stuff like eggshells, powdered milk. People tend to spray. There's some other products that do have calcium in it that's that you can buy at different types of stores. You can talk to Brian about that. But you definitely want to eliminate that problem, because if you have calcium deficiency in your plants, in your tomatoes, all of them are going to end up like that. They're not good to pick. They're going to rot. You got to throw them away. So watch for that brown spot.
Now, I've seen almost half the tomato later in the season. I mean, way
as
up
it
here.
continues to grow,
Okay.
they'll grow, but they'll rot. I mean, you can get a good size of your palm rotting on the bottom.
So it has nothing to do with sitting on the ground. It's just literally a deficiency.
That's typically blossom end rot.
All right. Well, that's awesome, guys. And those are probably some of the most commonly asked questions in the garden centers. I appreciate you guys pointing that out and helping us, kind of debunk all these little myths and things of what to do and what not to do. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out, y'all.
Yeah, thanks.
We've got a bee doing his job right here on a giant sunflower out here at Milliken Produce. Several weeks ago, we were out at Doug Cham getting some interviews. Kevin Fowler was kind enough to stop by, and he told us some projects that he's currently working on.
Party barn at my house. So we went out there and we invited 60 of our best friends and family, brought in a film crew, brought in a recording crew, and we recorded and did an 8-song live record. And you can go online right now and you can download it. Go to kevinfowler.com, and every 2 weeks we put up a new song. So over 16 weeks
from that set.
Yeah.
Right.
So over 16 weeks you can collect the whole record, and you can have a record that you can't buy anywhere else. It's this whole Texas music scene, man. It's spreading like a bad virus, We were out in Colorado last week, and we'll be in the Midwest, and we'll be over here in the Southeast, and it's just slowly growing. It just kind of started out kind of as an Austin, College Station kind of thing, and it really just kept growing and growing and growing and growing to where it's now. I mean, you look at all the guys, we're just playing wherever we can, and it just keeps spreading and spreading. It's great to see the way this scene has just grown from a few years ago, where we were all playing on the back porch of the Chicken.
Yeah,
and now,
exactly.
And now everybody, now we're playing arenas and amphitheaters and everything. It's just been a really cool ride to watch this scene grow.
Do you miss that time when you used to play at the back porch of the Chicken, that kind of thing? Do you still kind of wish for that every once in a while?
We still get to play to 5-10 people. Occasionally we go to Minnesota or somewhere, you're like, Kevin who?
Yeah.
But man, I just love just seeing how it's become such a huge thing, and how the general population down here has really supported Texas music is just awesome. Something you don't see anywhere else on the planet.
Right.
Well, we're going to be touring nonstop. We're doing all the fairs, the festivals, all that for the rest of the year. And then in December every year we do our Deck the Dance Hall tour, our little Christmas run. But we're going to try to get a record out this year. We're hoping to get it out by the fall. And if not, it'll be early next year. And it's just more of the same. We're going to keep on making records, and we're going to keep on playing nonstop till people tell us to quit.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge supporter. Everybody knows anything about me knows that I'm really into hunting and fishing. I have an outdoors website also, Kevin Fowler Outdoors. You can go there and check it out. But it's just a cause. We're always asking musicians to play for different causes. It's always great to play for one that you actually are part of, that you really believe in, and that's really something that you're really into. And Ducks Unlimited, since I was a kid, I've always been a member, and just what they do with wetlands preservation and with waterfowl in general. And I'm a huge ducks and goose hunter, and it's great to see what they've done, and they were the first real conservation group, that really hunters put together and started this thing where they really were working towards wildlife. Where now you see from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to the Wild Turkey Federation to all the Quail Unlimited, all these groups now, it all started. Ducks Unlimited was the first one out there, and they've done such an awesome job with working with waterfowl and wetlands and everything that they really were the forerunner of the whole conservation movement. So it's great for me to be a part of something that I really dig and I really enjoy. And and I think that's another thing about the Texas music scene is that the artists are very hands-on. It's not like we're going to sit backstage and we're going to hide out in the bush.
And just wait for your meet and greet and get it done.
Yeah, I mean. Most Texas artists, especially myself, it's all about the fans, and I like to go out and mingle at night. And every night after the show, we make sure that we go out and sign autographs, shake hands, and meet people, and because it's really one-on-one. That's the cool thing about this scene is the interaction between the fans and the artists, Or if you're a fan of Pat Green, you can go up and meet Pat Green. If you're a fan of Roger Crager, you can go meet him any night you want to. You can go to the show, you can shake his hand, you can say, hey man, thank you. And that one-on-one interaction, which is what I think really fuels this whole music scene. So, you know, I love getting out there and meeting with the public. It ain't fun staying on the bus, a bunch of stinky boys on the bus.
Do you guys watch Down Home? We're out here with the turkeys at Milliken Produce. You know, Peter Madden has been a little bit busy lately. He and wife Tara just gave birth to Lola Madden. Congratulations to Peter and Tara and Lola. Since Peter's been a little bit busy, we gave him some time off, and we're going to show you something he created for us a while back. Enough of you guys, and it's called baked sweet potatoes a la Madden, and here's how he did it.
Okay folks, we're back, and our last dish is going to be scalloped sweet potatoes. And like I said earlier, most people have the yams with the marshmallows and the brown sugar, and it's almost like a dessert. And so we're going to do a little bit something different here. It's more savory. You still get the sweetness from the sweet potatoes. And just a little word about sweet potatoes versus yams. They're interchangeable, of course, and most of the time you don't even know which one you're using. But the yam is actually more closely related to the potato than the sweet potato. The sweet potato is a member of the morning glory family. And so, but they're interchangeable, and what I'm using here today is actually a sweet potato. And I've already sliced some up for our scalloped sweet potatoes, and I left one that was not completely sliced because I wanted to show y'all this piece of equipment, which is called a mandolin. And the one that we have here is more or less industrial strength. And it's big and it's heavy and it's bulky. That's because we drop them, we use them daily, and so they need to be durable. Okay, so basically we want to slice these fairly thin. Sweet potatoes are much more soft when they're cooked than regular potatoes, and so they can stand to be a little bit thicker. And you can see some of these here are I don't know, maybe a little more than 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch thick. And so we're just going to push the potato through the slicer. And as they pile up, I'll just move them over. And you could use regular potatoes if you don't like sweet potatoes. You could use regular potatoes in this recipe, and you wouldn't have to change any of the ingredients other than the potato. And really, there's only 3 or 4 ingredients to this dish. It's so simple. All right, so as you get down to this potato being real thin, you want to be careful about not scraping your hand on that. So like I said, always use that guard. Okay, so now we've got a pan, and we use a lot of stainless steel here. Again, we want things that are durable. At home, you might have a casserole dish or glass, which would be much better to cook this in than what I'm using. But again, glass is not really practical for a professional kitchen. Okay, so I'm going to take just a little bit of a pan spray here and spray the sides and the bottom of this to give it a good coating. And we're going to start with a layer of sweet potatoes. And we're going to lay them down here. And the reason they're called scalloped is because you can see that I'm layering them in here so that they're kind of scalloped. And the bigger you leave the potato, the less work it is, because if you had a bunch of small pieces of potatoes, you'd be lining them up. So the bigger the better, and you're going to end up cutting it into square servings anyway. Okay, so now you can see we've got the whole bottom covered. I'm going to take some cheese, and just very little cheese, just sprinkled onto the bottom of the pan on top of the sweet potatoes. And we have here a mixture of white cheddar cheese, grated white cheddar cheese, and Havarti cheese. And you can certainly use any cheese that you like, whether it's just white cheddar or Monterey Jack, whatever it is that you want to use. I'm going to put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then what I have in this bottle is heavy whipping cream. And I don't recommend substituting milk or half and half, only because they'll tend to make the dish a little bit more runny. And so we put in, and I know everybody kind of gets scared when somebody says, oh, it's got heavy cream in it. We're going to use such a small amount that you're going to get probably less than a quarter teaspoon per person. So I'm just going to drizzle a little bit on that layer. So you can see what I have here. And I'm going to continue to do that until I've used up all my potatoes and I've got about 5 or 6 layers. One of the other things that you can do with this is right around the third, fourth layer, or basically about halfway through your potatoes, is you can add a filling. And some things that go good with sweet potatoes would be like green chilies, would be great. Kind of just spread them in that center layer and then just keep building it up. You can also do caramelized onions. You could do mushrooms in there. Anything that you like to kind of give it a little bit different flavor and to kind of bulk it up. Again, salt and pepper, and then the cream. And we'll just keep adding the layers. Go easy on your salt and pepper in each layer, because eventually you'll have too much salt if you keep adding kind of heavy-handed. So just a little sprinkling. I'm going to wrap the top with foil. I'm going to put it in the oven for 45 minutes at 350 degrees. Pull them out, take the foil off, put them back into that oven for about 15 minutes, and that's going to brown the top and give it a little bit of a crust and make it nice and pretty on top. Okay, so this is going to be our finished product. I'm going to go ahead and put some foil over that, and then we're going to put it in the oven. And I actually happen to have one already done that we're going to look at. And here's my foil. I'll set that aside like that just for a second while I go fetch the other one. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the finished product. You can see how it's kind of really sit itself down a little bit and kind of become compact. You can see that on the edges it's got a nice caramelization going. On these metal pans, you tend to get that little bit of a browner than if you used your casserole dish at home, a glass or ceramic. That typically won't happen. But like I said, the glass is not very practical for a professional kitchen. Okay, so you can cut this however you like. Here at work, we cut them into 12 orders. And so you just push your knife down through it, and you're going to want to let it cool off a little bit. This one, of course, I'm going to cut while it's hot, but you're going to want to let it cool to room temperature for 15-20 minutes so that everything can settle before you start cutting on it. Otherwise, juices start to run and ends up being a mess. So I'm just pushing my knife through. You could probably actually cut this into a lot smaller, and you certainly don't have to pre-cut it. You can just spoon it out with a spoon or a spatula as well. Okay, I've got them cut. Got a plate here. Got a small spatula here. I'm going to dig one of these out. And now you can see all those layers in there. You can see the cheese kind of oozing out, and it's just a great way to eat sweet potatoes without what I'm going to call disrespecting the sweet potato by smothering it with marshmallows and brown sugar. And there you go.
Dave McIntyre with the Integrated Center for Homeland Security had a chance to sit down and interview Paul Carlton, who is the Homeland Security Director for the Texas A&M Health Science Center. And they talked about the H1N1 virus, what we commonly call swine flu, and how it pertains to us right here in the Brazos Valley.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're back with you to bring you more about Homeland Security and national security right back here to where you live. We're here from College Station, Texas A&M University, and we're being joined today by Dr. P.K. Carlton, who is the Director of Homeland Security for the Health Science Center at Texas A&M. Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I say Dr. P.K. Carlton. I guess I could also say General P.K. Carlton, because in a previous life you were the Surgeon General for the United States Air Force.
That's correct.
Now, you took a very unique approach to that position. You had a lot of experience with combat medicine, and so before we get to Texas A&M and Homeland Security issues, talk to us just a second about what you did that was new, different, and special in relation to combat medicine as a Surgeon General of the Air Force.
Well, Dave, my experience in combat medicine dated back to the Marine Barracks problem in 1983, where we had some new tools in medicine that we had not had in the Vietnam War. They were the tools of salvage surgery and the ventilator. And after that 1983 experience, we sat down as a group and said, okay, we did exactly what we did in Vietnam. Can you look a mother, father, a husband, a wife in the eye and say no one could have done better? And we said, no, the world has changed. And so it took us 20 years to bring those changes with all the education, the training, the modifications for the military, but to bring those into the forefront so that for this war, all of them were there. The training was there, the pieces were there, the far forward surgery was there, the critical care in the air, the family members being there on day 2 and day 3 to hold these loved ones' hands. And that's resulted in the lowest died of wounds in the history of war.
Well, now that's important for a Homeland Security perspective, because one of the challenges you had was you had to break across a lot of stovepipes. The Army had its combat medicine, the Air Force had its combat medicine, the Navy and Marine Corps had theirs, and you had to find a way to stretch across those, didn't you?
Yes, and stretching across is fairly difficult, and the applicability to come to A&M was exactly the same. Every state does things differently. Every agency within the federal government does things differently. And so how do you bring then an approach to say to the country, we can surge, we can cope with less than ideal circumstances, and remain dedicated to preserving life, was what I came to A&M for.
Now, when you made that jump from the Surgeon General of the Air Force to join us in Homeland Security program here at Texas A&M, talk just a second about how you brought those ideas to bear, because those were not ideas that were common to medicine, civilian medicine, the idea of having to do triage, large number of casualties, and so forth.
Well, we taught the whole idea of surge medicine. We had combined programs with our College of Architecture, with our College of Engineering. We fit well with the TEACS, NERTC, the National Emergency Response and Rescue Training Center, who were focused on other than the hospital. So it was a nice combination. And in a sales program that was teaching people how to do something they never wanted to think about, we addressed this. We then had the opportunity to play it in Hurricane Katrina, where literally a booklet that we'd put out from our College of Architecture Health Science Center program on how to build a surge hospital, people opened it and did it in Dallas, in San Antonio, in Houston, in College Station, and in Baton Rouge. That pushed things along very, very nicely.
Let's take just 1 minute and tell us one other special thing that you worked with, talking about surge capabilities. Here at Texas A&M, they had to do with an animal hospital. Would you discuss that?
Yes, we had identified that the requirements for a surge hospital are space and ingenuity. And so we'd identified an opportunity with our large animal hospital here, a superb place, where we had oxygen, where we had backup power, we had tremendous amounts of space, that we could handle more than 1,000 patients in a surge situation. And then, lo and behold, we had to do it for Hurricane Rita. And so it all came true. We had then the opportunity to work, how does that work?
Well, let's take all that background, Surgeon General of the Air Force, running the Homeland Security program here at Texas A&M, working with state and local hospitals, and let's apply that and ask you to step forward and talk about flu for just a second. We've been through this discussion of H1N1. Everybody was all spun up, now everybody's all spun down. Give us from your experience, your perspective on what we've seen thus far, what we should expect to see in the future.
Well, what we've seen thus far, we're now beginning to get a complete picture. It's been a full month since the world's been aware, but it's been 3 months since we've seen the problem. It surfaced in La Gloria, Mexico in February of this year. The health department then got involved in March. By the time they finished their testing and we found out we'd seen something that looked new, it was middle April, and the world became aware of it. By that time, we had cases in Texas, Texas in California, Texas, all over. And so it literally had become a worldwide issue very, very quickly.
Now, you've talked about that for many years. You anticipated that. What surprised you in either a positive or a negative way about the way this flu sort of unwrapped?
Well, the very positive part of this was that there was a national awareness, that we had a plan. The plan worked very nicely. We learned some things in terms of we're in the middle of a pandemic. The however is we didn't factor in lethality. And so everyone's a little bit relaxed right now that this did not turn out to be as lethal as we had expected it to be. But if you're a student of history and you go back to 1918, what we saw was Spanish flu came in late spring, then vanished for about 3 months, and then surfaced again this late spring discussion, very, very low lethality. And then when it came in the late summer, early fall, a higher lethality. And we suffered then 50 million deaths worldwide. So it's not over by a long shot.
Now, it's always easy to second guess people in hindsight. We saw a lot of schools closed. We saw universities make decisions about graduation exercise. We saw some sporting events canceled. In hindsight, is that overreaction, or were people being properly cautious just because you never have enough information until it's too late?
I believe that was being properly cautious. I believe based on the information they had, they made very intelligent decisions that said, can we do this some other way, still accomplish our mission, yet not expose people to the risks until we know more information. So I don't believe anybody overreacted.
We've got just about a minute left. Would you share with us, Dr. Carlton, your thoughts on how we, either as individuals or businesses, ought to get ourselves ready for what's going to follow on and appear again when the weather gets cold next year?
Well, the great concern is that we probably have 3 to 4 months to now do what we should have been doing all along. That means to look and find out, okay, do we teach our school children how to cover with a sneeze, how to cover a cough, how to wash their hands properly, how to do the things that involve lowering transmissibility? The other piece that we haven't really paid attention to is how do we handle the inside threat? When someone coughs or sneezes in an emergency room, for example, how often did they infect other people within the emergency department? We know SARS started with 1 index case in an emergency department in Canada. In close proximity, 4 other cases were infected. And so we're now beginning to address the airborne threat as well as the other threats. So this will be a very busy 3 to 4 months.
Are businesses taking proper precautions, or are you concerned that they've relaxed a little bit too much?
Well, there's a bit of a deep breath going on. It says, oh, we dodged a bullet. And so I believe businesses are going to look and say, okay, what really should we do now? Because all the public health measures involve social distancing. Social distancing is horrible for business.
Social distancing is where we stay out of the mall, where
Yes.
we close a school, where we don't go to the movies, we pull down churches and so forth.
Exactly. And that's the antithesis of a happy business environment. And so the balance between proper public health and proper business is the most difficult one for our public health officials to reach.
I guess the key to that is that leaders have got to step out and explain to the public what's going on.
That's exactly correct. And that's our job right now, is to make sure our leaders are well informed.
Do you have a thought about where people might go for personal preparedness as they see moms and dads, as they see the flu season come on next fall? Where would you recommend they check?
The Center for Disease Control has some wonderful websites about
CDC.
Center for Disease Control, how to protect yourself, how to protect your loved ones, what's smart, what's not smart. So I would advise people to go to that website, yes.
Okay. Well, Dr. P.K. Carlton has been the Director of Homeland Security for the Health Science Center for several years here at Texas A&M. We really appreciate the expertise that you brought out of combat medicine into the field of Homeland Security. I know you've been have a national reputation in that area, and then we also appreciate very much what you're doing for us here at Texas A&M. Hope you enjoyed that, and you'll stay with us for more on our channel, whether it's here on this television channel or whether you join us online, where we take issues of Homeland Security and national security and bring them home to you.
I'm up here on the Kubota tractor. Tanya and Steve have been crazy enough to give me the key. Look at that. Uh-oh, this could be trouble. I'm going to go plow the back 40 as soon as I'm through with you guys. Thanks for watching KAMU Down Home. If you have any suggestions or comments, you can email me at downhome@kamu.tamu.edu. I'd like to hear from you, either a suggestion for the show or a suggestion for a segment for the show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on KAMU's Down Home. Walter, Jacob, y'all get out of the way. I got work to do!
This program is brought to you in part by Georgianne Blakely Zamonics Amazing Space, providing full design services, including the one-day makeover. Georgianne is an interior designer and can be contacted at 979-774-5095 or amazingspace@verizon.net.